Hey, everybody, welcome again to more Faith More Live. No, Facebook Live. Yeah, I was just thinking about what am I doing? Yeah, we're doing Facebook Live. We're so glad we could be together today. Obviously, I've been out of town and I'm doing too many broadcasts. And we're going to do a podcast here in a little while. But anyway, Facebook Live, we're live now, back in town, working hard, trying to get everything caught up, getting Labor Day is kind of a time when you kind of set, like, when that's over, then we get past Labor Day, then it's really getting into the fall and we get our everything going. And then holidays are going to come. It just goes so fast. So I'm looking to the great things that are happening in our church. We're looking to improving every area we can. We're doing some construction, and of course, looking at the worship and praise and sermons. And so I think Kathy's going to be speaking this Sunday, we hope, and if not, then it'll be me. So one of us will be doing it this Sunday. Hope things are going well for you. I'm waiting to see some few people come on. We got a couple of guys with me, Zion and Jeremiah. And Jeremiah is here from Finland now, working with us back to his USA home. And they're with me today, going to help produce this and make it great, even though I started kind of sloppy, didn't know where I was or what broadcast I was doing. But anyway, so say hi to me if you're there. We're on time today, and sometimes we run late, I know. And, of course, we've been out of town for the last couple of times. Haven't even been in town when we did it. Because I want to talk to you today about who you are and what God has done for you and your calling and called people and a chosen people. And I was reading it from 1 Peter chapter 2. It's where I was getting my information because there's some wonderful things there. And of course, it first describes the enemies of God and how Jesus is the stone, that the builders rejected, and a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall, and they stumble because they disobey the message. It's not good news at all. But then all of a sudden, it says, but you, and it changes. And this is the church then in the area of Turkey, probably, and it would have Jews as believers in Jesus. It would have former pagans as believers in Jesus. So the Jews and Gentiles would have been hearing this letter together, which is important because when he talks to him about this first line, that it says, but you are a chosen people. Well, then that's very important because, at one time Peter had difficulty accepting that non-Jews were chosen of the Lord. Remember when he was sitting at the table with Jews and non-Jews, and some Jews came that don't believe you should mix, and he got up and moved and sat at a different table away from the Gentiles or the pagans. And Paul was infuriated by that. That's not what this is about. This is about us all sitting at one table together. So when he says you here, and it means Jews and non-Jews meeting together, gathered together as an assembly, as the church there, and they read this together, then that's pretty important that he has made that, so we call it a theological switch over. Well, guys, you're not doing a good job. It's kind of slow today. Nobody's here saying hi to me yet. I think they don't trust that I'm actually in town since they weren't sure last time. But so I don't know. I don't see. Oh, see, I like to see who's around, and I don't know how fast to talk because I kind of wait on a few people, So, okay, so everybody, yeah, okay. So we're doing a little bit of tech here. Get this.
Jeremiah's going to type a test comment.
So we're testing on you guys. Give us a second here. Yeah, so you got these producers working for us now. And so these titles that he gave us, you are a chosen people. This is strong when Peter is able. There we go. And
yeah, there's more on here. That's just not.
Well, they're being more friendly to you than they are me, aren't they? Come on and say hi there. I'm seeing some people come on. I just don't like people to miss too much, as they go. Yeah, they're coming on. I see you. I'm seeing you. Hi, everybody. Good to have you together. And so when Peter gets to the second chapter of First Peter, when he wrote this letter, it's huge that he has come so far that he is able to now include in his own theological thoughts and doctrines non-Jews with Jews, and says they are both chosen people. That's huge. A lot of theology there. And then get this. Okay, so verse 9 of chapter 2, you are a chosen people. This is in New International Version. Some say chosen generation. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. Now, the reason I chose that is because none of those things you can do yourself. These are all titles that mean something and that place us kind of in a different position. So, a chosen people, God's chosen generation, that we would be called out of darkness. And then the royal priesthood, that's different though. Being the chosen people is the special place that you get with God. But a royal priesthood, the priesthood, they served. They were serving. The priests served in the temple. They ministered unto the Lord. A great, great teaching on that has been lost through years and years. I used to teach it a lot. And that is that we've been called as ministers unto the Lord. That's our ministry. And so people say, what's my ministry? Well, very few people say, well, my ministry is unto the Lord. And they'll tell you what their ministry is. They're going to minister doing this, that, and the other, and all good stuff. But we've lost ministry unto the Lord. And so now people come to church not to minister unto the Lord, but to be ministered to, not to encourage the Lord, not to sing his praises, and not that they don't sing his praises, but the focus of church in most places is on the people. We come because we're going to get inspired. We come, we're going to feel better. We come to see our friends. We come to sing some songs and feel good about ourselves. And so, but when it calls us a royal priesthood, now that means not just any priesthood, but royal. We're royalty and in the priesthood. So we are royally servants of the Lord, and we royally minister unto the Lord. And then a holy nation, and the word holy means what? Set apart. A set apart nation. So each one has its strength. You're called, chosen. You serve as a royal priesthood. You're a holy nation set apart for God. And then finally, God just says, you are my special possession. So I like that. A lot of people concerned, that maybe they're demon possessed and they just need to be God possessed, right? Need to be spirit possessed. Yeah, it's the same thing. If you say you've seen enough movies, if you see somebody's demon possessed, well, you see that's a person that's, and by the way, that's not a good term. It should be demonized. Demon possessed is not a New Testament term. That's what we use in our day through movies and stuff. But it's really a demonized person, which doesn't show level. It could be a tiny bit. A demonized person could just hear a lot of whispers in their ear all the time. They could just hear stuff. They could be tormented by their past, but they're not possessed by it. They can still serve the Lord and function and do this, but they're just bugged. It's one time I said, not everything that bugs you flies. You can be bugged by a lot of things. Yeah. And you get a lot of voices and you just get tormented and pushed down and just all kinds of stuff that can make life, not so enjoyable. And so, but just flip that around now and get spirit possessed. He said, we're his special possession. So I want to look at it and say, well, I can kind of figure if somebody's overrun by demons, you can pretty well probably tell it. Well, somebody's overrun by God and as his special possession by the Spirit of God. We should be able to tell it. So the idea is we don't see really this special possession much in action because we're all being special unto ourselves rather than special unto the Lord. So there's those 4 titles that he gives us, and they're extremely important that he is telling these people, which are Jews and non-Jews together, that they're chosen, they're royal priesthood, the holy nation, and a special possession. So all those 4 of those things God does. God did, God does, right? And so I see some more people coming saying hi. I see Melissa and Zion, of course, and Jeremiah is there, of course, and this is Lori, and I don't got all the names, but I see some names coming in. Benita Williams, yeah, it's coming through now. So these 4 things are given to you as titles and places of action. Chosen, royal, holy, and special, all right? As God's possession, right? So that part's okay, and that's what God does. And then it says this, that you may declare, you get those, that you might declare the praises of him who called you. All right. So that's our job then, to declare the praises. And we've studied enough to know that the praises need to go just beyond our church or family. I mean, he wants to hear the nations. The nations need to be praising his name. The nations need to know the greatness of his name. But I guess if each one of us takes the territory, receives our titles by faith, and we can sort of get over thinking God's always upset with us and mad at us, because it's hard to be chosen and royal and holy and special and feel like the guy who gave you those titles is mad at you. So obviously he wants us in his life. He chose us to be in part of God's kingdom. But then we got to do our part. We are declare the praises of him who did what? Called us. First, he gave us a title, right? Chose us and royal priesthood, nation, special, all those things. And then he called us out of something. Come on out. Called you. He called you. Have you heard him call you? Yeah. He called you out of darkness. Called you out. Come out of it. And into his marvelous light. So we're called out and we're called in. And we get into the marvelous light then. We're living in the light. And that's hard today because there's not a lot of light in the natural world, right? There's not a lot of things going on right now, a lot of crazy things going on in politics and government and all kinds of things, happening. And yet here we've been called into this marvelous light. And a lot of times it gets so heavy that you kind of don't see the light anymore, like you're fighting maybe depression, or you're fighting just feeling bad about yourself, feeling like a loser, just plain worn out. A lot of people just tired, right? They're tired. The stress of life. They're trying to make ends meet, trying to make it on their income and all that kind of stuff. And it wears out. And trying to raise children today in today's crazy world with so many influences on our children, wanting to give them an influence and have the government raise our children, or the government influence our children more than the parents, if the parents at all. And so these are titles that were given from him, but now we have to walk in it. How are we going to walk in it? Well, praise is going to be a part of it. And then feeling and knowing, like, when are you coming out of darkness? When are you coming out of darkness? When did you come out of darkness? I remember going to a lot of churches and they'd have testimony time, kind of old-fashioned churches, I guess, back then. But they'd have testimony time on Sundays. And usually the same people, if I'd been there before, it's usually the same people always gave a testimony. But sometimes they just got up and said nothing, like, I'm glad I'm saved. I'm glad I have a home in heaven if I were to die. And it's just the same thing every time that they're giving a testimony to God. And that's, but here we're declaring the praises of him is it should be a right now experience, the praises of him, because he's got me going a direction. He called me out of darkness, right? And so I remember people would get up and say, I remember when I was saved. I've been saved 20 years. And I remember the date I was saved. But you really want them to say, listen, that's great, because God saved you by the blood of the Lamb. By your faith, he saved you. But when did you come out of darkness? Is that you got that marked on your calendar? You got on your calendar when Jesus saved you, when the blood of the Lamb saved you and salvation came. Well, when did you come out of the darkness? Or are you still in it? Are you still trying to get out of it? Or have you ignored it? Because have you really gotten into the marvelous light, the wonderful light of the gospel, of the freedom that comes? And so we have these great titles that help me understand what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And so if I'm a chosen people, I love the scripture, of course, that says, he called us and chose us. We did not choose him. He chose us. Some have translated that because they feel like they feel like God's being particular who he chooses. So they flipped it and said, no, it really should be translated, many are called, but few choose, and put it on us. They didn't want it to sound like God chooses some people and doesn't choose other people. But he does, right? I mean, not all people are created equal after they're created equal in God. So we all get an equal start in Jesus, but some people walk by faith and some people walk by fear. Some people have strong faith and some people have weak faith. So right now it's not going to be equal, right? But that's okay. it says that we need to help. Some people are weak in the faith, and we need to help them. We need to let people be who they are, and let them live to the highest level that they can live. So that's why I'm telling you these things. Maybe you'd like to live a little higher. Well, you're chosen. You're chosen. So get over that. Get over that. God's okay with you. Chose you. It chooses people. And then royal priesthood means there's a royal level of living, but we don't want to get ourselves into ego and pride. I'm royalty. No, because you're royal servants to serve the Lord. You're a royal priesthood that stands by night in the service of the Lord, right? I'm in the service of the Lord. I get to be royal. I'm high up. I am high up. You are high up. It's not just ordinary priesthood. It's a royal priesthood, but it is still a serving priesthood that we minister under the Lord. So when we come to church, we come into the tabernacle in their day, or they come into the synagogue, or they come into the church today, whatever it is. We need to come in with the idea of, I am here to serve the Lord. I'm chosen, but I'm chosen to serve him. And I want to show that what the priests do. And what do? They minister unto the Lord. Of course, they would burn incense, and the smoke would go up like prayers, and they do sacrifices. And of course, we don't do live sacrifices, but we do living sacrifices. We come and minister under the Lord, becoming a living sacrifice, right? And realize this is a priesthood. This is my calling. So I don't come to church and just hurry up so we can pray for my need, make sure I get taken care of, make sure I feel loved, make sure I feel important, make sure I feel appreciated. Well, this is obviously not very royal, and it's not a priesthood, because it's all about you. But if it's all about him and he's the center, then we can become the priesthood and do that. A holy nation set apart for God's use only. That means we do not get involved and entangled in worldly affairs, right? We're like a good soldier. We don't get entangled in worldly affairs, because we need to be a holy nation. And that means not just me. I'm not here to be holy by myself. I'm here to be holy with you. We need to be a holy nation, set apart. A large group of people needs to set themselves apart for the servant of God and God's use only worldwide. That would be awakening right there. That'd be a great awakening right there. Who called us out then to declare special possessions, to declare the praises of him who's called you out of darkness. So that's got to be your determination. Now, what's the best thing that can happen to you right now is if you get out of that darkness. The darkness has no longer any power over you. If you walk in the light and you serve in the light, then in you there'll be no darkness. And so we want to quit overlooking the darkness. We don't need to be embarrassed about it, because everybody's got to deal with some. And we want to be honest about it and say, you know what? My biggest thing is I have never got out of darkness. I got called out, but I never went out. I've hung on to so many dark things and justified it and said it doesn't matter and all that, rather than getting out of it, walking out of that darkness, being called out. Come out of that darkness. Okay, I will. And where are you going to go? I'm going to go into the marvelous light, where all of a sudden life feels better. Life feels lighter. That's why it's great light. There's no darkness. You see, you understand, you comprehend. You're not confused. It's not so hard. You're not worn out, and you're energized by the Spirit of God. So that's what we want for you, is to first of all receive your titles. Receive your titles that you have as that of the chosen people and royal priesthood and all the titles that he gave us there. And as his special possession in the holy nation. Get your titles going. That's who you are. That's how he sees you. And then now, because of those titles, now let's walk out. How can we have those titles and be still lingering around the darkness, right? So he's calling you. Come on. Hear it. Listen to his voice. Come on. Get out of darkness today and come into the marvelous light, and where we can declare the praises of him to the world. And, but now you are the people of God. Whoa, how about that? Once you were not the people of God. Now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So then he goes on to tell us to walk away, abstain, don't get involved in all this junk. and the dark things. Get out of it, because you got great titles to go along with your walk with Jesus Christ. So glad we could talk together today from 1 Peter, just sharing the scriptures, just building you up a little bit today and clarifying a few things. So I hope you do that. Be sure and read the book. If you only knew, it's getting to be where now we're going to be walking away from that era. We're getting into, depending on what happens in the election, we're getting to the point where you need to wake up and know what to do and what direction to go, because we're getting to the point where there's going to be some decisions made that are going to affect the entire world. And I want you to be ready. So it's still free download.